All right, so the first thing that you're gonna need to know how to do with threading a needle is threading a needle. So we're gonna take a piece of string. The string itself, when you get thread, you're going to get 1 arm's length. So you can see that I untucked it from its little tab. And I'm just unrolling this. There are faster ways to do it, but whatever. And I'm gonna get 1 arm length. The reason you get 1 arm, not 2 arms, 1 arm, is because you're only ever gonna be working with a thread this thick at once. If you got 2 arms, you'd have to double it up, and that becomes a lot thicker. This is harder to get through your thread, and it also uses a lot more thread than what we really have available. So 1 arm of thread, and also this 1 arm is as far as you can pull before you start having to pull more thread. So 1 arm, that's all you need. You can see that my arm is straight out. It's not in front of me. You can see how much excess I have if I don't. It's straight out to one side. It's just held up here right at my chest to my fingers, and then chop. As you work, you will see if that is a good amount. Sometimes you might not need as much and you might get a little bit less, like half of an arm or something like that. But this is a really good place to just start from if you're not sure. Now, come over this way. The hard part of threading the needle is getting the thread through the needle. We use size 12 needles usually. Now these size 12 needles are really nice because they have these very big eyes. If you have a needle, you have the pointy end and you have the end with an eye, and then you have the main body of the needle. And what kids want to do is they just want to hold the thread like so, where there's this like big floppy bit on the end, and then they just try and like push them together. And you'll notice that it's just not happening. It just pushes. This is no good. So I will have some of these needle threaders. Not all teachers will. And if you have a needle threader, it's super easy. You just take this flat little piece of metal, and that can go through the eye of the needle quite easily. If I can actually aim, oh my Lord. It can go through the eye of the needle. The thread hooks on, and then the needle slides back over, and bam, easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you do not have one of these available, that's whenever you have a bit of a hard time. So come down here and look at what I do. Now, if I have no threader available, my thing that I will do is I will pull so that I have barely any of the thread poking through my fingers. There's very, very little, if any at all. And I'm gonna hold my needle so that the eye of that needle, that little hole, is pointing up away from my fingers. And I'm just gonna kind of shimmy while slowly letting go, and it will push, like the fatty tips of my fingers will just push this through. Now this wasn't perfect because I do have a little thread that's not going through the center of the needle, so I do need to retry, but same concept, give it a little wiggle back and forth. And it didn't want to do it again. This thread is fraying. Yes, I'm gonna blame it on that. You can leave me alone. Oh my Lord. Sharp scissors are recommended for this, guys. Oh my Lord, why is it not wanting to go in? You can see why having a threader is so much nicer because it doesn't do this. All right, there we go. So you can pull it through this way, or you can do what I call the unicorn horn method, where if you look really closely at the thread, you'll notice that it is several smaller threads all twisted together. So you can see back here, all of these little threads are here. They come apart. And they twist in a particular direction. In this case, these ones are twisting this way. And if I keep twisting them that way, I'm pinching right here, and I twist, like I super twist this end. I like twist it quite a lot. And then I give it a little bit of slack. It just twists back on itself like so and makes like a little unicorn horn. This adds a little bit of stability and strength to that little nubbin, so I can work a little bit harder at shoving it through, and since it's folded over, it won't fray. And it'll go through the needle without too much trouble. And I can just pull it with my fingernails. And then I can get it threaded. But obviously, best one is this one. These particular types of needle threaders are preferred. You'll sometimes see them with a tiny wire. The tiny wire tends to break. This kind is much stronger. They have a side for smaller needle eyes and a side for bigger needle eyes. We're gonna use the ones for bigger needle eyes whenever we can because much, much more useful. All right, so now you have a long string. This long string is wonderful and beautiful, except for the fact that if I tried to pull it through any fabric whatsoever, it just keeps going. There's no knot on the end. Now, a lot of kids want to do this. They're like, ha, I just tie these two in a knot, and then I have a big circle of thread, and that'll stop it from going through, which is true, except that 90% of the time, you don't want this thickness. This thickness is not your friend. This will make it more difficult to push your needle through fabric, especially once you get to multiple layers of fabric. And also, now you have half the amount of thread that you had before. Before, you had all of this length, this all the way out here. And whenever you double it up, you have about that much. And this will get you nowhere. Nowhere fast, anyway. So, here's how you hold embroidery needles for our class. You're only going to have a couple inches held over to pull the needle on. This also lets you take off the needle or put the needle on if you do not have a needle that is your own personal needle. This will let you hold it onto it. But that means that you're holding your needle here. You don't hold your needle here, you hold your needle here. Because if I do this and I pinch this little end, I can yank this side and this doesn't slip out. If I'm holding it up here, that's gone. Gone instantly. Gone forever. No more friendship between you and the thread. So we're going to do the easy threading here. Wacha. So we only hold over a little bit. Now I need to get a knot on this end. And you can do the very boring, like roll it over and stick it through. But if you're going to do this method, the only tip I have for you is to roll this through more than once, 2 or 3 times even. And what that will do is it's going to make a bigger knot on the end that's more likely to catch well on the fabric. But there is also a more fun, fancy way that is not difficult. So I'm going to chop this one off. Wacha, go away. I'm going to show you the super cool, slick, fast one. So come in real close, just All right. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to have the pointy end pointing away from me. Then I'm going to take this back end of my thread, so it's not the end attached to my needle, it's the other end. I'm going to cross over like an X. I'm going to hold that in place with my thumb. I'm going to take this, I'm going to swirl up like I'm candy caning towards the top of my needle. I'm going to hold that swirl around in place gently because I want the needle to be able to move. So I'm not pinching the life out of this, just gently. And this can move. And now I can just pull my needle through that whole loop-de-loop. Note that my fingers are staying pinched. I'm not letting this go. And then lo and behold, I have a knot on the end of my thread. It's super fast, super easy, and it makes you feel like such a professional. Anyway, that's the very, very first step of embroidery. Threading your needle, knowing how to have it knotted so it will actually work. Next thing that we're going to go over is loading your fabric into your hoop, and we're also going to help you set up your little stitch sampler.